This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Sports QuaranTV right here on Rogers TV. We've had a lot of fun doing these shows. As you can tell, I'm no longer in my basement. I've upgraded to the main level of the house. I am now in my dining room. Anyways, we've got a great show lined up with the QMJHL draft coming up this weekend, Friday, June 5th. There is a lot of action happening this week. I've got two great guests joining me tonight. First, we're going to start with he's got many titles. I think I've seen this go on many, many times. I saw Tiger Woods get these kind of nominations and these things. You got, co-host of the Quick Shift podcast. He's the host of Sports Inclusive on Rogers TV. He's the color commentator on the QMJHL on Rogers TV. It's always a treat. I've had the pleasure to work with Craig for a long time. Craig Eagle's joining us tonight. Craig, thanks so much for doing this, buddy. I truly appreciate it.
Well, I'm wearing my scouting hat tonight, Chris. Thank you so much.
I forgot your scouting. I apologize. I forgot that business card.
Wow. Thank you so much for having me on.
And my next guest as well, the co-host of the Moncton Wildcast podcast, Jeremy Boucher. Jeremy, again, a guy I've had the opportunity to work with for a year and a sum. And, I've done some great media work with you. The reason that, obviously I wanted you to be a part of this is you always go very in-depth when it comes to your draft type conversations. You're very knowledgeable. I know that at one point you were looking at possibly getting into the scouting world yourself too. Hey, you know what, man, that's interesting. So I really appreciate you taking time. I appreciate the knowledge you're going to bring to this as well. So than's for joining us here on Sports QuaranTV.
Well, Chris, I don't have the resume like Craig Eagles, but I appreciate you having me on the show. It's I've been wanting to be on your show for about 10 years now, so it's I'm glad to finally be on it.
I'm going to start with the big one, and that is the QMJHL made the announcement that the potential start date for the season has finally been named. October 1st is the potential go-to date right now. I want to get your thoughts and opinions because this has been blowing up all over social media. There's a lot of questions to be answered, and that is, will fans be allowed in the building? How are they going to do it? What's going to happen? I mean, there's still a lot of question marks. So, Craig, I'm going to start with you and get your thoughts on the announcement of the October 1st. Is it something feasible, something we could see?
Well, let's hope. Let's hope that we're there and the QMJHL is ready to go and really the entire league is ready to go and Canada is ready to go at that point. I'm just not sure it's feasible right now because there's so much uncertainty, Chris, and it's difficult to make these marks in the sand, so to speak, and stick to them when there's that much uncertainty. So I really hope that that benchmark date happens and it comes to fruition.
Jeremy, was it a shock for you to see that they finally announced a date at this point? I mean, I think it's a little premature myself personally, but I mean, were you surprised to see them come out and openly announce a date?
Not really. I think they wanted to kind of get the date out there because it really, with it being draft week, it's will obviously have a huge impact on some of these trades. If the league doesn't start out, if there is trades made this weekend, and there is no season, and there's so many clauses and conditions that are going to come into effect. So no, I'm not really surprised. I think this is something they really wanted to get out there so that teams could prepare themselves and fans could get excited.
Do you think the season starts in your opinion, Craig, I would love to know, do you think we could see fans in the building?
Really, it's out of the control of the Avenir Center and all of those major rinks. We've heard, gentlemen, that, rinks could say, well, we're only going to go at 30% capacity, social distance, all of those things. That makes sense. But does that fit the CHL model? I'm not sure if it does. So, hopefully we'll get there. But right now we can't make these guarantees. Everything, it just can't be etched in stone right now because there's just too many variables.
the president of the Canadian Hockey League had a great interview with Sam Cosentino on Sportsnet in regards to the future of what they were going to talk about. Because back then, the commissioner of the QMJHL, Gilles Courteau, said, we don't want, at the time, we're going to be playing these games. We're not going to play without fans in the building. There's going to be a huge financial aspect to the whole piece. I mean, there was a lot of concern that some of these teams weren't even going to make it. But then President Dan McKenzie comes out and says, we make that decision, not them. This is a different time right now. So you never know. Our goal would be to have everybody at camp for September. So the fact that they made the October announcement was actually quite shocking to me today. But once I hear your point, Jeremy, you're absolutely right. I agree with you. I think you have to get that done. And it all straps up to the trade period, which, leading up to the draft this weekend, which is what we're going to move to again here real soon. But again, where they made that announcement, I really just needed to get your guys' thoughts and opinions on it, because I thought it was great. And I love the fact that, we have it etched in stone. Again, the date's etched in stone. Whether it actually happens or not, there's still a lot to be determined, but at least they've made that step in the right direction. And I think they're following suit with a lot of other major sports brands as well. I mean, the National Hockey League has gone through the NHL, and the NHLPA have gone through the voting process. Looks like they're on their way to make sure things are happening. Major League Baseball's made their announcement as well. I mean, that vote went through, so we could see that as early as August. Roger Goodell in the NFL, I mean, that's just, billions of dollars of revenue. You have to go through that aspect. So it looks like sports are starting to come to be. So I love the fact that the Canadian Hockey League or the QMJHL, exclusively is starting to go that route. But go ahead. You look like you had something to say, Craig.
Well, I think testing right now is paramount. And, the NHL released, well, they're going to be testing every day. I think testing is critical. And obviously we can't take that away from society and the citizens, the sporting world aside. We really have to put that aside and say, let's look. Who knows? There's no crystal ball here, but testing and testing players and personnel, team personnel is very, very important moving forward. So hopefully, by October 1st, everything will be set in place.
If it's feasible that they do start the season October 1st, my idea, if I was running the league, is that obviously with the borders, with New Brunswick and being, the plan is that the border in New Brunswick probably won't, to Quebec for that, won't be open until December 31st. So you start the first 3 months of the season with all the maritime teams playing the maritime teams, and then all the Quebec teams playing only the Quebec teams. And then once the new year, then you have the Quebec teams coming to the Maritimes on their road trips and vice versa. Does that mean, will fans be in the stands? Yeah, I hope there's fans in the stands, but I also think it's an opportunity. Will it be necessary for fans to wear masks? And I think it's an opportunity for some teams to generate income if that's the case, because I think Victoriaville hit it on the dot earlier this week. They introduced, the fans can buy Victoriaville Tig masks from their online store. Every team comes out with their own masks. They sell them at their team stores, and the team makes money off it. I mean, if that's something they do, then I mean, it's a great way for a little bit of income, because teams are going to be losing income. There's no question about it. But if every team comes out with their own masks, and it's mandatory for fans to wear masks, it's a good way for them to make money.
Guys, that's going to be a great segue into my next segment. And that, of course, is the draft itself. The draft is coming up Friday, June 5th. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of speculation before that. There's a small, brief trade period that opens. There's a lot of rumors that have been floating around. I mean, any of them, there's going to be a couple teams that a lot of people have a lot of eyes on. And I tweeted it out today. Our good buddy Neil Hodge at the Times and Transcript had a great article in regards to the Moncton Wildcats, and that is, the Wildcats, all eyes are going to be on Moncton right now because of the speculation that took place in the season that never was, and then of course there was no compensation picks awarded. But with the rumors floating around, you've got big pieces, and we can't confirm this. I mean, I know that we're shooting this before Thursday airs, and we'll find out on Wednesday. But you've got, Zachary Leroux, Elliot Desnoyers going back to Halifax to complete that trade to Halifax, which I think some people aren't going to quite understand from a fan perspective. I know that right around the trade period time, I feel bad for whoever runs that social media account for the Moncton Wildcats, because they seem to get ripped apart every year. But overall, again, you have to make moves to acquire guys, and it's not an easy, but Richie Thibault and his team have done an amazing job if you look at what they've done. So it's going to be a little hard pressed. And on the flip side, I want to get your thoughts not only on the Moncton Wildcats and what they might do at the draft or the trade period, but, I talked to Trevor Georgie a couple weeks ago in regards to what he was going to do, because the question seems to keep surrounding with that third overall pick. What's going to happen? Will they keep it? Will they move it? I mean, it's no secret that St. John's looking to build a powerhouse. So we'll start with the Wildcats piece. Jeremy, I'll let you go first. Are you shocked, or would you be shocked to see Moncton make any moves beforehand to move up in the draft?
If you would have asked me that question 2 weeks ago, I would have said I can't see it happening. But there's just so many talks going on right now. So many names floating around. If you look at last trade period, obviously Bo Grew and Jared McIsaac were the two big fish. And you got to look, Moncton's probably got the two biggest fish going into this season, right? Jacob Pelletier and Jordan Spence. Those are the two players. I mean, if you want to look at what those two could bring back to the Moncton organization, probably something similar to what they paid for Bo Grew and Jared McIsaac. It's going to be right up there. I don't see anything drastic happening. I know right now they only have, I think their first pick's in the 4th round, but that will obviously be improved. I can see them maybe sneak into the 2nd round, but I don't see any trades being done that will bring them into the 1st.
Now is not the time to criticize. Now is the time to reflect and celebrate the team that Richie Thibault and his staff created.
Absolutely.
It was a championship caliber team that never had the opportunity, unfortunately, to, see how good they could be. So now's not the time to criticize. Now's the time to look into the future. And really, the foundation of this rebuild is Jacob Pelletier and Jordan Spence. Now, would you trade those assets now? Would you separate those assets? There's a lot of variables. I think Thibault is going to be very patient. I think he's been fielding a lot of phone calls right now because teams, those borderline teams, and guys, there's a lot of teams that could probably make a strong push in a shortened season or in a full 68-game season for a President's Cup. So there's a lot of variables there. I see the Moncton Wildcats potentially getting into the 1st round. Are they going to move both of those pieces to the same organization? That remains to be seen. I think Jeremy hit the nail on the head. I think the return for both those players is going to be very similar to the return that we saw with McIsaac and Grew. Now, who would be willing to part ways with a potential pick? And you have to look at teams that have 1 or 2 picks in the 1st round that would be willing to take on highly skilled 19-year-olds to make a run. And those are the conversations that these teams and organizations are having right now. It's going to be very interesting. But with all the uncertainty, I really think that some teams are going to approach with caution. And if they do make a trade, they're going to have a lot of stipulations on that deal. As far as St. John is concerned, picking 3rd, Trevor Georgie went on their Tuesday night draft conversation. They're probably going to part ways with the 3rd overall pick, and rightfully so. Like any organization in their position, stacked with as much young talent as they have, and their goal to try to go back to back, you have to move that pick. A 16-year-old player in your lineup this year, sure, you're going to have an impact player, but you need 19s. You need 2 19-year-olds that are going to be impact players, and you need a leader in that dressing room.
Well, speaking of St. John, I mean, again, Trevor Georgie announced maybe a little too premature in regards to before the trade period had opened, but, Chris Furnace is joining that organization. He's very excited about that to happen. And of course, Robert Orr going the other way. or excuse me, not the other way, but either way, Christopher Innes, a huge ad for St. John and what Trevor Georgie's trying to do. And he's trying to bolster that. I mean, they've been looking for a good defenseman for a long time. I mean, they've got a lot of young offensively talented defensemen, but Christopher Innes brings a lot of game to exactly what Trevor Georgie's trying to build there in St. John. So you talk about that third overall pick. I know there's a lot of rumors floating around, and that's why us guys in the media, we love what we do because we live off rumors. That's how we do our jobs. But ultimately, you are right, Craig. And, Trevor made it clear he would love to go back to back. But I'm with you. I think if that's the case, you have to look at a legitimate chance to move that third overall pick. Obviously, when it comes to rumors and everything that's floating around, the one piece they do need, and Craig, you and I have talked about this off camera, is they need a goaltending. And it wasn't just us that we talked about it. I mean, Trevor told me on my show, he's like, I have no problem with what's going on, but we're going to need another starting goaltender here. Could you see St. John make a move at bringing in, a primary number one starter, making the trade for it? I mean, I know there's a lot of rumors, and I mean, who's available? Alexi Gravel out of Halifax, he's linked there, whether that's actually an opportunity or a possibility, all hearsay, but I think he'd be a great fit there.
Oh, well, definitely he would be. I think Gravel has had his ups and downs, and I think in front of a very good team, Gravel can carry a team all the way. And he's battled some injury woes, Jeremy, over the last season and a half that people don't necessarily understand and knew about. I think Gravel, a hungry Gravel and a motivated Gravel, is going to be very good for the St. John Sea Dogs. It
is exactly what they need. Chicago didn't sign him, so he's clearly going to be back in the league as a 20-year-old goaltender, and is really a good fit, right? They, like you said, Craig, they have what it takes to go back to back, and they do need a goaltender for this upcoming season. What they do the following season is still up in the air, but if they don't land Gravel, I can easily see them taking a goaltender in the European draft.
There's been no shortage of great goaltenders come out of that European draft as well. I mean, I think, a couple teams go back. If you go way back, you can think of some stud European goaltenders come into this league. I mean, but overall, guys, I don't want to get too off topic, so I appreciate that. I do want to talk about the upcoming draft coming up. Obviously, Tristan Luneau is the consensus first overall pick. We were talking off camera before this whole show started that it is a very D-heavy draft. First round D-heavy draft, I guess is what we could say. Do you see anything unorthodox? I mean, as far as the top 3 or top 5, do you see anything possibly changing there? I can't see any scenario where Luneau doesn't go first overall.
Well, first of all, and let's make this very clear, from a maritime scouting perspective, I didn't get to, and a New Brunswick regional scout perspective, I didn't get to see Luneau this season. Obviously, I see all the Quebec kids at the Gatorade Challenge and a lot of scouts go to Gatineau and that type of thing. The Gatorade Challenge is the quintessential scouting last look at the best on best. And, that event obviously was canceled. So it really set scouting and organizations back a little ways this year. So it's all about eye test with me, and it's not about watching video or anything like that. You need to be in the building. You need to watch these kids. And it's the other variables, their body language, their character, how they change, all those little things that are so important. What I can tell you about Luneau is one of our colleagues, one of my scouting colleagues at the CSR loves him. And as far as an NHL comparison, it goes back a little ways, but he mentioned Ray Borg. So when you have a complete two-way defenseman like Ray Borg, you're going to hit a home run. And this kid played midget AAA as an underager, dominated, arguably, from what I'm told, was one of the best, if not the best, defenseman in that tournament as an underage. So it speaks for itself. Obviously, Gatineau, with having the first 3 picks out of 5, they're going to hit a home run, and Louis Robitaille is the man to do it.
He's a franchise defenseman. He's that good. He's probably going to be the best defenseman to play in the Q since Noah Dobson. He's probably even better than Noah Dobson from reports that I've heard. And with that said, he's really only going to be a 2-year player. So if Gatineau's gonna, Gatineau for some reason doesn't take him first overall, then you just take him second overall and you're happy, right? But that's the beautiful thing about the draft, and he's only going to be a 2-year player. He's going to be in the NHL by my math is terrible, but let's say September 2022. So if there's Gatineau will be all in for that the next time the Q rolls around with their Mem Cup bid, which is going to be in 2022.
Craig, you mentioned Samuel Savoie moving far up on the draft list. I mean, it's interesting and great to see a lot of Moncton talent entering the QMJHL draft this year. I mean, Moncton's well represented.
Very well represented, and Nova Scotia is too. And I think when you mention Andrews and Schmidt, and there's so many Canning, there's so many highly touted Nova Scotia kids as well. And it's great to see the Maritimes having that caliber of player and eliteness of player. And it's great to see. And all those players have their own unique stories. When I look at Sam Savoie, I see full of potential. I see a player and a person full of potential. And there are sometimes, and what really talked about his maturity and was when I asked him a question about his maturity and about his discipline, I was surprised at the answer. He needs to stay and play on that line and not cross that line and have that edge. He's a phenomenal player. I would have liked to seen him use his teammates a little bit more, but when you're a skilled player and expect to score and put up points on the board, you're going to have the puck and you're going to have scoring opportunities. So I think his response and his maturity as the season progressed was really important for me from a scouting perspective. So Moncton is definitely well showcased this season with Matteo Mann and countless others.
So, Jeremy, I mean, obviously with the draft on Friday, June 5th, somebody I've seen photos of you lately attending previous drafts, being very animated in these things. It's going to be a little different this year, of course, because you can't put these spectacles together. But I'd just like to get your thoughts. You look at the QMJHL draft normally in regards to, how great it is, and it's very professional. It's very NHL. Craig, you and I have had the opportunity to work drafts before. How impressive has it always blown your mind? The QMJHL normally, this year excluded, puts on such a great show and such a great showcase for these kids and their families on a huge day. So, Jeremy, I'm going to start with you because I know that you absolutely love draft day. You seem to travel around to go wherever it's at, and you are wearing whatever it takes to be noticed, my friend.
It is one of my, one of the funnest days of the year, from a league standpoint, because they do it the right way. It's unfortunate that the Ontario Hockey League and the WHL are I wish they'd catch up to what the Q is doing, because the Q really does it. They do it the right way. They get the whole spectacle, the red carpet, the stage, the lights, the cameras, and all that. It's really such a fun event, not just for players and families, but for fans too. Because you're sitting there in the first round, and all of a sudden you hear a GM call a timeout from the stage, and it's ooh, it's just it sends that kind of a vibe into the crowd, and it's not just the fans that are doing that, because it's the players too, because they're like, oh, is this a team moving up for me? You look at Quebec last year trading up to get Jacob Melanson out of Amherst, right? And
right.
Fun example right there. And it's just such a fun event. I said a couple weeks ago I was probably going to sleep through the first round because I didn't think Moncton would be active. But after what Craig said, maybe I'll put on a cup of coffee and tune in.
Craig, we've got about 2 minutes left, and I just want to go back to some. I mean, you've done some great coverage, some great draft feeds before for both Rogers and for the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. And, you know, what's some of your fondest draft memories? I mean, you've had a chance to interview some pretty special people. I mean, I think the one that you did, you Facebook Live, one of the drafts you did at Quebec, and I think Chris Letang was there. You had a chance to talk to him. I mean, you know, is there any moment specifically that stands out for you in any draft you've done?
Well, I think just seeing the emotion that's in the room and on the floor, and especially last year at the Videotron, seeing the reaction of the families, I think is really special. And I think a lot of the players that I've interviewed and written articles on in the last few weeks here, many of those players have talked about missing out on that experience and enjoying that experience with their families. And I think that's one area that the Q does it so well. And the draft is very special. And it's a day where I think players understand the magnitude and the journey. And they also understand that the draft is special, but it's what you put in after you get drafted. It doesn't matter what round you're chosen in. The dream is there. The opportunity is there for them to seize it. You mentioned Sam Savoie, Matteo Mann as well. All these young players from the Maritimes grew up watching the Q, and they grew up dreaming about one day skating on under the bright lights. And I think that's what makes the Q draft day so special.
We're just about out of time, but before we do, it's only fitting, guys, I'm going to plug what you guys do. Jeremy, I'm going to start with you, of course, co-host of the Moncton Wildcast podcast. You and Adam do a fantastic job. You guys can find that podcast basically on any podcast platform there is to find it on: iTunes, Spotify, Google Music. It's everywhere. And of course, Craig, with everything else you do, you you and Steve do an amazing job with the Quick Shift podcast as well. You guys can see that, of course. It's on Facebook. I absolutely love watching both of it. Love listening to the show, guys. Thanks for taking time out to do this. It means the world to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Guys, it's going to wrap it up. We hope you've had as much fun as I have. Don't forget, you can catch the QMJHL draft live on their YouTube channel this Friday. You're not going to want to miss it. Always a good time. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Is this some kind of Canadian joke, sir? I mean, I know you're the instructor and everything, but we can't carry the ball. How can we get a decent shot at the peach basket?
All right. Maybe we can allow a carry of a couple of steps.
And Mr. Naismith, sir, it sure slows things down having to climb up here every time.
Well, then let's cut the bottom out of the basket.
Ah, but I need these baskets back.
100 years after James Naismith from Almont, Ontario invented it, basketball was being played by hundreds of millions of people around the world.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
This is Rogers TV, New Brunswick.
You're operating, Doc. My brother dies. I'm gonna kill you.
I'm scared.
Get out of here. Now. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna fight him.